Rev up your engines!
VW's coming out with an electric sports car, and it could have a secret weapon against the Tesla sports car. Now, the Volkswagens are all going to be platform cars. They're going to be based on a certain platform, then they put bodies on top of them. Now, this basic chassis can have motors in the front and or the back, so it can be the all-wheel drive, and electric motors all-wheel drive have more acceleration. Volkswagen says they are working on batteries for performance cars. They're testing them out at that famous Nuremberg racetrack, and they're setting all kinds of records with them. They're using different types of chemicals, different types of metals to make special sports batteries for making them go faster. These new batteries incorporate brand new battery cell technology. Of course, Volkswagen can tell you what it is. They're not going to let the cat out of the bag and let their patent go free. They're saying that it uses new chemistry and a new cell-to-cell construction to make them both more efficient and more powerful. So with Volkswagen into the fray, gonna be an interesting thing going on here. And when you think about this recession that's obviously coming, Volkswagen, what were they notorious for building in the first place? Beetles, small cars. Perhaps it'll be small electric cars that become at the forefront. Sometimes you bite off more than you can chew. Volkswagen's got a lot of flexibility because they're starting from scratch, and if they do have a better cell technology and it works better for both sports, and they say they're going to put it in their regular cars when they get it all perfected, could be a Volkswagen will have the revenge of the old Beetle with a new electric version. Ethan 0815 says, Scotty, saw a video you're doing with the Nissan Rogue, and I was wondering if Nissan should get rid of their CVTs. Do you think they should go back to the Jatco regular ones? Well, they were crappy too. Jatco transmissions just aren't good transmissions, you know. I mean, they sell a lot of them because they sold them all over the world, but a lot of people are giving up with them. I mean, I've seen the Chryslers that used to have them. Some of the Chryslers now have Ace, and they have the Toyotas. They've switched because they realize if people have bad transmissions, and they're not going to buy their cars anymore. So I don't think it'd be any better going from a Jatco CVT to a Jatco regular ones. You even see companies that used to use them now are making their own. Hyundai's are making their own. Mazda's making their own transmissions. Hey, a lot of these companies are realizing, hey, those Jatcos are crappy. We're not even going to use them anymore. So anyway, I can't see Nissan changing because they own Jatco. They're not going to go away from their own company. Louis Farias says, hey, Scotty, I got a 2014 Ford Escape Titanium EcoBoost with an automatic transmission I bought at auction 2 years ago. Just now I fixed some body damage, and it keeps having this oil light on in the dash. Help. That stupid warning system. If you're full of oil and you got oil pressure, especially if it's one that tells you it's time to change your oil, you bought an auction car. Not a smart thing. I don't know if I was buying cars at auctions, often wrecked, flooded, stolen, totaled by an insurance company for some reason. As years going on, the electronics can go haywire. Now, you said some body damage. Look around that area. See if some wires have been crimped or broken. But if everything else works okay, you can pop the dash out easily enough. There's an LED in there. You could just break it off so that light doesn't come on again. I got a lot of customers who'll do that. They'll say, hey, the car works fine. I don't care about that. As long as you got oil pressure, it's full of oil, hey, you can ignore a lot of stuff on an auction car because, believe me, probably as time goes on, you're going to get more and more electrical gremlins because once they're wrecked and the wires start corroding and rubbing on stuff that was bent, all bets are off. Then anything can happen on a computerized car. Pedro 0956 says, Scotty, got an '07 Chrysler 300. Believe my valve seals are broken. The spark plugs are getting wet with oil. I plan on driving from Texas to Chicago. Will that cause serious damage? Me, I wouldn't drive a 13-year-old Chrysler 300 that far, especially one that's got oil leaks and stuff. You never know what's going to happen. What if the oil leaks get bigger and then it just consumes the oil when you're going 70 and the engine blows up? I would keep that as a local car. As long as you keep adding oil, it can run. Do like a lot of my customers do when they have cars that are old and starting to wear out. They keep them as in-town cars. When they travel, customer of mine just went to visit her mother in St. Louis. She went and rented a car. Cost her $200-something to rent the car. You're safer doing that than you are driving that thing. I wouldn't trust it anyways. It's a 13-year-old Chrysler. It could break at any point in time and strand you somewhere. Then you got to get it fixed places you don't know. You're going to get totally ripped off most of the time. T-Morse51 says, Scotty, I bought a 2015 Honda Odyssey, 85,000 miles for my family. I realized they're interference engines at the time you built, not a change. Should I be worried? Well, that per se I wouldn't be worried about because it's only 5 years old with 85,000 miles. They say to change the belts at like 100,000 miles. But I personally would be worried that you bought the wrong vehicle. vehicle. They have automatic transmission problems. They have cam engine problems. They have air conditioning problems. Those are not the greatest vans in the world. I would be more worried about the transmission going out or the air conditioning breaking and cost a fortune to fix. They're not the greatest vans. You should have got a Sienna van. You would have to pay more, but they're like 5 times the van than the Honda vans are. But you got it, so, I mean, if I were you, I'd take a look and see whatever you paid for it. If you could sell it to close for what you paid for it, I would get rid of it right now. If everything works fine, I would get rid of it rather than take a chance. Now, if you got it dirt cheap for like $3 or $4 grand, go ahead and drive it. But if you paid a lot of money, I'd see if I could resell it real fast, because in the long run, those things generally turn into money pits. 202 Ray says, would an Alero Oldsmobile be reliable? And if so, the main concern is it going to be parts are not being available for them? It's just a GM. You know, billions of years ago, they actually made Oldsmobile was its own company, but Oldsmobiles have just been GM cars, just like Chevys and Buicks for ages and ages and ages. So all the parts are pretty much interchangeable. You can still get parts for them. I have no problems getting parts for Oldsmobile when my customers bring them in and I have to work on it, so I wouldn't worry about that. They're not great cars, but they're okay cars. You got that V6 engine. If you baby it, they can last quite some time. Their automatic transmissions are a little weak. That's why you want to baby them. But if you baby them, I had a guy the other day bring one over. He had 150,000. It was still working okay, but he was an older guy who didn't beat it. He just drove conservatively. It was still running okay. 55 says, Scotty, I live in Calgary, Canada. What are your thoughts of a 2014 Honda CR-V EX? It's all-wheel drive, 4-cylinder. I watch your videos and avoid V6 since I don't need it, with 87,000 miles on it. Okay. Gee, what are you guys doing in Calgary? You know, now that they can't have hockey, geez, you must be dying. That's about the only thing there is to do in Calgary, other than the Stampede. Boy, without hockey, what are you guys doing? Now, that's a very good car to buy. That kind of mileage, it still has tons of life left in it. They're well made. They can last a long time. But like anything else, pay a professional mechanic like me to check it out before you buy it, because you can't trust sellers that are selling used cars, you know, unless it's your neighbor or something. You know him, you know it's never been wrecked and he took care of it. Get it checked out, and if it does, it can be a great vehicle. Lorraine's the one says, got no 06 GMC Savannah V6. It loses power at about 65 miles an hour and has a whole bunch of codes, P0507, P1420. There's a lot of reasons a vehicle can lose power at a certain speed. But you've got some weird codes. Normally, I'd say pressure test the fuel pump after changing the filter. Clogged filter, weak pump can do that. Pressure test the catalytic converters. They can clog up and do that, but you have these B codes. I fixed one of those 6 months ago with pretty much the same thing. It was a stupid computer that's called the body control module, BCM. Because those two codes, B2961 and B2610, I see when those trip, it's usually a bad body control module. And that controls so much stuff on the car. It's so easy to change, you got to pay a mechanic because it has to be reprogrammed to work with your truck. But I would say try that first, and if that fixes it, you can thank Scotty, because it took me hours and hours and hours to fix the one that I worked on 6 months ago. Now I know that's the first thing I'm going to look at when I get those codes on a GM. Frankie Fast Time says, I got a 2012 Dodge Ram V6 3.6 liter. My alternator's overcharging. It says 16.7 volts. In the olden days, you had an alternator, the regulator was built into the alternator, all the charging was done by the alternator and the regulator, so if it overcharged, the only thing that could be was the alternator or the regulator, and they're both built in the same unit. You just replace the alternator regular assembly. Most cars are still that way, but on that Dodge, they got these engineers with, you know, their heads up their rear ends, and they want to make everything computer controlled. Your charging system is ultimately controlled by the computer. The computer regulates the charging. And every single time I got a Dodge like that was overcharging, I had to replace the main computer and reprogram. It's going to cost a lot of money, but, you know, that's probably what's going to have to be. Let a mechanic check it out, but odds are you need a new powertrain control module. It's going to cost you a whole bunch of money, and you'll wish you'd listened to Scotty and never have bought a Dodge product in the first place. Krabby678$ says, Scotty, got no weight, Honda CR-V, battery light stays on. I replaced the battery twice. I did an alternator test that shows 14.36 for the voltage. Okay, what now is you going to get the alternator load tested by a professional like me? There are many more tests to be done on an alternator other than plain voltage testing. To give you an example, alternators are called alternators because they create alternating electricity. Then there's diodes that turn it to direct electricity. So you got a diode going out. You're going to get a AC voltage ripple that will make the battery light come on because it's not charging correctly. Your voltmeter isn't going to test that for pure voltage. You need a full load test that does diode test, that does a load test. We mechanics have machines that mine costs about $850, does a full test. AutoZones have them, they'll test them for free. Start there, because odds are it's your alternator. Now if it isn't, then you got a problem with your wiring system, and you're going to have to trace it all down to see why that battery light's coming on if it's actually still charging. Maybe a wire short somewhere, and that is a Honda, so it could even be in the computer system, because the computer system in that car ultimately helps charge the car and sets it all up. It's all computer run these days. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.